Hello BookTube, welcome back to my 2026 library tour. Today I'm going to be starting with the great poet Adrienne Rich. This is her selected poems 1950 to 2012. This is a fantastic collection that I added to my library a few years ago. So really highly recommended. It's been a while since I last read her, though. Next is Scaffolding by Elena Rivera. This is from the Princeton series of contemporary poets. I picked this up a few years ago during Princeton University Press's 75% off sale, which initially they did at the beginning of the year, but now they've moved to the end of the year. Unfortunately, a lot of the poetry that they do offer tends to repeat because as far as the Princeton series of contemporary poetry or contemporary poets goes, they only publish one or two a year. And the same is true for the Lockhart Library of Poetry and Translation. But this is a really good collection. The poems are titled about the days of the year, although there are not 365. There's significantly less than that. But I've enjoyed this collection. Housekeeping by Marilyn Robinson. I had a different edition of this novel 20 years ago when I read it for a class, and I've been thinking about picking it back up for years now, and I finally did a few months ago. I have never read Philip Roth, so a few months ago I decided to finally bite the bullet and picked up Goodbye Columbus. Although I still have not gotten around to it yet. I will find a time to read this soon. The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy. I believe this is her debut novel. It also won the Booker Prize a few years ago, or more like about 20 years ago, and looking forward to getting to it. Next is Midnight's Children by Salman Rushdie, which won the Booker Prize about 40 years ago, and also apparently won a Best of the Booker as well. So this is a novel about the children born when on the midnight that India gained independence, and also the formation of both India and Pakistan as they are today. Haven't read it yet, though. I have given a go, to a more recent novel of Rushdie's, Shame, which is about a young man who is raised by his mother and crazy aunts. So this novel came out in 1983. It was shortlisted for that year's Booker Prize. And I picked this novel up initially because I was doing a reading project where I would read books that came out in the year of my birth. That project did not go over so well initially, but I'm going to give them another go soonish, although not altogether. So I picked this back up from Pals a few months ago. Empire Falls by Richard Russo won the Pulitzer Prize in 2001, I believe. or 2000. I don't quite remember. Would have been 2002, I think. I think Shaban won it in 2001, and Rusa won it in 2002. Although, don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. I very likely am wrong. This is a novel about a small town in upstate New York, if I remember correctly. I picked this up because when I was a teenager, there were two novels, the other one being Blue Angel by Francine Prose, that I found myself just gravitating towards. And it took me 20 years to finally get around to adding them to my library and trying to read them. And neither one of them particularly worked out for me. But I'm wanting to give them both another go. Although I haven't given either one of them another go recently. But hopefully I will. Next is What Now Is Now Is Now. Selected poems by Nora Ruzikova. Translated from, I think, the Slovenian by Ivana Hostova. So I picked this up late last year from the University of Chicago Press. They had a late poetry sale on, and I picked this up because I'm looking for some poetry in translation, and this fits the bill. And I'm thinking of maybe doing a project this coming August for Women in Translation Month, although I have not fully decided yet what that will be or if I will do it. I thought there would be more rules by Sarah Ryan. This won the 2020 Permafrost Prize. It's from University of Alaska Press, which I think was distributed by the University of Chicago Press, although I think I picked this up from a Libris, because I think some of my first University of Chicago Press books, or ones distributed by them, I picked up from a Libris, and I think this was one of those. It's a good collection, not one of my favorites. It's been a while since I last read it. This is one of the oldest books I have in my collection, Sappho, translated by Mary Bernard. So this is a collection of extant fragments of Sappho's poetry. Sappho is one of the greatest poets ever. Unfortunately, most of what survives of her is fragments. But those fragments are quite evocative. I've had this collection since I was a teenager, if not even earlier than that, and it hasn't left my possession. Picked it up from the Barnes & Noble in Waco shortly after they opened. Next is 10th of December by George Saunders. This is a short story collection that was up for the National Book Award as a finalist. Was also one of the best books of the 21st century, according to the New York Times. And I recently picked this up because I wanted to have something by George Saunders. I'm slowly working my way, I think, to getting Lincoln on the Bardo, but I haven't gotten it yet. Back to poetry with As When Waking by Daniel Schoening. So this is an okay collection of poetry. It It's from the University of Chicago Press as part of their Phoenix Poets series. And it's a good collection. Not one of my favorites, though. And back to short fiction with 7 Empty Houses by Samantha Schweblin, translated from the Spanish by Megan McDowell. This won the National Book Award a few years ago, and I recently picked it up from Powell's. I've been wanting to read more Argentine literature, and Schweblin is an Argentine writer. So I finally picked this up because I've also been wanting to read something by her. Next is M, Son of the Century, by Antonio Scorati, translated from the Italian by Anne Milano Appel. So this is the first volume in, I think, a multi-volume fictional biography of Benito Mussolini. This is about his early years, and was highly praised when it first came out, especially by BookTube's own Steve Donahue. And it took me a very long time to finally get around to picking up this edition, which I did from Powell's sometime last year. Haven't gotten around to it yet, though. I need to find the time to get to it. I think at least the second book in the series is finally coming out into English. Sticking with novels, next is Colored Television by Danzy Senna. So this is about a TV writer or an author who is trying to break into the TV industry and having shenanigans erupt. I recently picked this up, so I haven't gotten around to reading it yet. The next 2 novels are by Anne Seri. First up is The Beginners, which I picked up from Powell's. And I also picked up and this is translated from the French by Mark Hutchinson. I also have, at least as far as in translation, A Leopard Skin Hat by Anne Seri, which was shortlisted for last year's International Booker Prize, and translated from the French by Mark Hutchinson again. So, really need to get to her. Frank Sonnets by Diane Seuss. This won the Pulitzer Prize a few years ago and is a really evocative and moving and powerful collection of poetry. Really enjoyed it. I also have her most recent collection, Modern Poetry, which is also really good. Need to get around to rereading this. I haven't reread this yet. So this is an older edition of Collected Poems by George Safaris, even though it says it is a revised edition. It is translated, edited, and introduced by Edmund Keeley and Philip Sherrard. And it is from Princeton University Press as part of the Lockhart Library of Poetry in Translation. This, as it being an older collection, this is solely the English translation, and it does not include the Greek original. Safaris was one of the 2 main Greek poets of the 20th century. And his work is phenomenal. I really enjoyed this volume, even though I have not read it in some time. And there is, I think, a newer edition that has come out recently. There Are Rivers in the Sky by Elif Shafak. This is Shafak's most recent novel. I've been wanting to read something by Shafak for a while, and I picked this one up. But I haven't gotten around to it yet. The Complete Works of Shakespeare, the Bevington edition. This is published by Edison Wesley Longman. This was the text, the Complete Shakespeare, that I used for Shakespeare class that I took. And I kept it. So I have a complicated relationship with Shakespeare. I think that my responses to his work is often mixed. I need to give him another. I need to probably sometime this year read him more than I have. But anyway, let's go put him up before the rest of this shelf falls over. The History of Sound by Ben Shattuck. This collection of short fiction has come highly recommended by BookTube, so I decided to finally pick it up. Money Eaters by Sherry Shinoda. This won the Silverman First Book Prize for African Poets. Was also longlisted for the National Book Award a few years ago. It's an okay collection, but didn't really stand out to me. And it's from the University of Nebraska Press. The Stone Diaries by Carol Shields. This won the Pulitzer Prize in 1995 and is about a woman who, it's basically like a fictional biography of a woman who was born in the early 20th century in, I think it was Canada, and winds her way to Florida in the United States sometime at around the time of her death. I tried this a few years ago and I didn't get on with it. I would like to revisit it. And also the today, Tuesday, April 21st, is the announcement for the shortlist of the Carol Shields Prize, if you're at all interested. The last 4 books on this shelf are all by one of my favorite poets, and that is E.V. Shockley. First up is A Half-Read Sea. This is a wonderful collection. I really love it. The second collection, well, the first collection of hers that I ever owned, but her second collection is The New Black, which is phenomenal. Her third collection is Semi-Automatic, which is brilliant. And her most recent collection is Suddenly We, which was shortlisted for the National Book Award when it came in poetry for when it came out. And this is really great as well. So that was the second shelf of the final bookcase of my 2026 library tour. I will be back tomorrow morning for the third bookcase. So, see you then, BookTube.